IVM. Welcome to my podcast, The Longest Constitution. My name is Priya Mirza and I teach political science at Zakir Hussain Delhi College, University of Delhi. And this podcast is about the Constitution. But it's not just about the Constitution, it's about you and me and our everyday life. And I remember telling my friend, hey, I really want to do a podcast on the Constitution. And my friend sat there, she nodded and she said, yes, that's wonderful. But I could see she wasn't very enthused. And she said, you mean a podcast on that old dusty text sitting somewhere? You'll talk about our rights, our duties, blah, blah, blah. But that's the point. Our Constitution was not made for lawyers and judges, but for you and me. And this podcast is a pointer that the Constitution molds us in so many ways. From the choices we make from where we live, how we live, where we study, who we have sex with, how we have sex, to whom we sit with in our classroom, from what's on our dining table, and whether we can pour ourselves a drink after a long, tiring day. These are matters determined and shaped by that dusty text, the Constitution of India. As part of the first season of this podcast, we are going to talk about sex, illicit sex, about adulterers. Adults commit adultery. And adultery is when one has sex with someone other than the person one is married to. And for violating that, one is punished by adultery laws. Today's story is set in 1985 when a woman discovered that her husband was having an affair with another woman who lived just down the road. She was enraged. When she spoke to her lawyer, however, she was told that as a wife, she cannot legally charge her adulterous husband with adultery. So she decided to challenge the law itself and was scolded by the judges. The judges proclaimed in Revati versus Union of India 1985 that the sanctity of marriage cannot be violated and our laws protect men and women from filing cases against each other. But why shouldn't they? And why should there be a law to prohibit a woman from filing a case against her adulterous husband? But that's what Section 497 of the IPC was all about. And I'll come to that. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Joseph Schein, an NRI living in Italy who was outraged when his adulterous male friends had affairs, were charged with the crime of committing adultery, but the women weren't. Schein thought this was unfair, that women were not considered liable under adultery laws while men were. And this was a pretty serious crime. You could end up in jail for up to 5 years and pay a fine. So let's get to the bottom of why adultery laws didn't consider women liable. Our laws were drafted by the British when India was a colony. And the Indian Penal Code was one of their great legal achievements. Back then, laws were just not debated or discussed, and the Indian Penal Code itself was drafted by a very small group of men, one of them being Lord Macaulay. And back then, the British had ideas which we would now consider completely outdated. That women are incapable of having sexual desires, that they would never make the first move, or that they would willingly be unfaithful. Obviously, they had very little understanding of female sexuality. Plus, Macaulay never married himself. So much for experience about marital or extramarital love. But this was not about love. This was about control. Women weren't allowed to claim their inheritance. Women weren't allowed to claim property because women are stupid. They had smaller brains. They actually thought that. And also because women were property to be owned and possessed. They were inert and incapable of taking any decisions, innocent, and very far from being criminally minded. And this was reflected in their laws. What Section 497 of the IPC did was make men criminally liable for adultery, but not women. And this reasoning had very strange legal consequences. The first, that only the husband of a woman who had committed adultery could file a case against the man she had an affair with. The second, that a wife of an adulterous man could not file a case against the woman he was having an affair with. The woman who committed adultery was not even seen as abetting the offense and was exempted from being charged with a crime. And finally, if a husband slept with an unmarried woman, it wouldn't even qualify as adultery. That makes no sense. For women, it meant being stuck with an unfaithful husband. But they are stupid, aren't they? In most countries, adultery is a ground for divorce, like in the UK. But remember, Revati was reminded, scolded, reprimanded in 1985 that marriage is sacred, even if the husband is sleeping around, and that wives and husbands cannot be filing cases against each other. So the law basically kept unfaithful people married to each other. But Shine was not concerned with this. He was just upset that his male friends were facing the wrath of law, but not women. Now, Article 14 of our Constitution guarantees equality before law in every situation, every circumstance. Now, I'm not suggesting that women are criminal, but not to see them capable of taking their own decision smacks of seeing them as these childlike babies. And when the sexual intercourse takes place with the consent of both parties, there's no good reason for excluding one party from the liability. And although the Constitution also speaks of giving special provisions to women under Article 15, Part 3, Section 497 is not a privilege, but a denial of equality. And at the same time, it makes me think about all the movies, novels, and mythology that I'm familiar with, where women are portrayed as these sexy seductresses who are forever distracting good, serious men. And this lopsidedness is what led Joseph Shine, a citizen of India but a hotelier in Italy, to file a PIL in the Supreme Court challenging the constitutionality of Section 497. Now, under Article 32 of the Constitution, any citizen can challenge the highest court of the land to look into a matter concerning the enforcement of a fundamental right. Shine petitioned that Section 497 was at odds with Article 14 of the Constitution, which assures all persons equality before law. In September 2018, a 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court unanimously struck down Section 497 of the Indian Penal Code on grounds that it violated Articles 14, 15, and 21 of our Constitution. It kicked the state out of the place where it never should have been. The judges observed that consensual sexual relations are a private matter and do not concern the state. I completely agree. I was particularly struck by Justice Deepak Mishra's observations in his judgment about space, that the rights of women get the real requisite space in the living room of individual dignity, rather than the space in an annex to the main building. And it's not just about women. Each one of us are equal and have the right to enjoy every space in a house and not to be pushed into a corner. And that to me is at the heart of intimacy and privacy, of having a space. Space not just between consenting adults, but the space between a citizen and the law, between a person and the state which makes those laws and those affected by those laws. Our Constitution opens possibilities for those conversations, and it shapes new realities, hopes, expectations. So, adulterous friends, men and women, remember that the Constitution is blind to our differences unless there is good reason not to be. And when it comes to consensual illicit sex, there is no good reason not to see women as active participants. Next time, we are going to be talking about a little more sex when we discuss Section 377. But for now, this is me, Priya Mirza, signing out of the longest Constitution, and see you around next week.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast, in the first half, Ashwin is joined by Varun to wrap India's ODI tour of Sri Lanka. In the second half, DJ joins the party to discuss the first T20 international between India and Sri Lanka. If you'd like to hear more about this match, former Indian cricketer Sabha Karim joins Rajiv Mishra on Khel Niti and they talk some more about it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're really excited to announce a new show, a show about crypto with Rohan Joshi. He's going to dive deep and demystify all this crypto stuff that we've been hearing about. And let me tell you a little bit more about stuff that's going on the network really quickly. Congratulations to Mahrukh Inayat, who celebrates 50 episodes of The Note with a discussion on health as a fundamental right. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam talks to Harsha Chetanwala of mywealthgrow.com. Zarina Poonawalla is starting a new miniseries on emotional intelligence. Do check out the kickoff episode on the Empowering series. And Simplified talks about semiconductors. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show, or any other show for that matter, please do tell a friend. That's really helpful for us. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors on the network this week. They make this all possible. Thank you very much. CED, Cred, Global Victoria, Bank of Baroda, Intuit India, Lenovo, and CoinSwitch Kuber. We really appreciate your support.
We live in an age of disruption, of immense change in every aspect of work, life, and business. But is the old way of doing things truly dead? And are we ever going to stop saying the new normal? Join me, Varun Duggirala, on Advertising is Dead every Tuesday as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, creators, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond to dig a little deeper into how we got here, what we're doing now, and where we're headed. You can catch all the episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from.